Chapter 1. The Manor. Part 1. The Legend. Every generation tells stories it hopes are not true. Stories whispered beside dying fires. Stories passed from one generation to the next. Stories that always end with the same warning. Do not follow the mist. Most legends fade with time. Names are forgotten. Places disappear. Fear becomes folklore. Folklore becomes little more than entertainment for those who believe the world has already surrendered all of its secrets. But some legends refuse to die. They survive because, buried beneath every myth, there remains a fragment of truth. Of all the stories the world has tried to forget, none is older than the legend of the Manor. No map shows where it stands. No road leads to its gates. No traveller has ever returned with proof that it exists. Yet its story can be found almost everywhere. In forgotten villages where church bells ring without reason beneath the full moon. In ancient libraries where books, written centuries apart and in different kingdoms, all contain sketches of the same impossible house. In lonely inns, where old travellers lower their voices before speaking its name. The details are never quite the same. Some speak of towering Gothic spires rising above an endless forest. Others remember walls hidden behind drifting mist. Some claim they saw smokeless fire burning through stained glass windows. Others recall only enormous black iron gates standing open where no road should ever have been. But every story agrees on one thing. The manor does not remain in one place. It appears only when it chooses. There are stories of hunters who wandered familiar forests and never returned. Of travellers whose horses came home alone, exhausted and trembling, though no storm had touched the land. Some returned days later, believing only moments had passed. When asked where they had been, they could never explain. They remembered candles, long corridors, ancient music drifting through empty halls, voices behind doors that never opened, a house that seemed to breathe. Most were dismissed as mad. Some disappeared again before the next full moon. Children were warned never to chase strange lights through the trees. Adults laughed at such tales in daylight. Yet, when darkness came, they locked their doors a little earlier than usual. Perhaps they feared the legend, or perhaps they feared it might be true. The oldest surviving account was discovered within the ruins of a monastery destroyed by fire more than 500 years ago. Only a single page remained. Its edges had been blackened by flame. Its ink had never faded. It described a house older than kingdoms, a place hidden between the waking world and another, far older than mankind itself. The final lines were written in a different hand. The letters trembled across the page. There was no signature, only a warning. The house remembers every soul that enters. No one knows who wrote those words. No one knows what became of them. The page itself vanished soon after it was discovered. Some believed it had been stolen. Others believed it had been reclaimed. Throughout history, kings, scholars, and explorers have all searched for the manor. Some believed it concealed unimaginable wealth. Others sought forgotten knowledge. Many hoped to uncover nothing more than another lost castle, swallowed by time. None succeeded, because the manor cannot be discovered. It cannot be conquered. It cannot be claimed. The manor chooses. Those who seek riches find only empty roads. Those who seek power lose their way. Those who enter the forest, believing themselves worthy, often return exactly where they began. The manor owes nothing to arrogance. It waits. It listens. It remembers. Some believe it watches the world through every shadow, that it hears the thoughts never spoken aloud, that long before a soul finds the manor has already found them. There are those who dream of it. At first, the dreams are fleeting, a candle burning somewhere in the darkness, footsteps echoing through an endless corridor, a distant voice calling a name that is forgotten before morning. Then the dreams begin to change. The forest appears. The mist grows thicker. Ancient towers stand beneath a silver moon. Each night, the dreamer walks a little closer. Each night, the manor becomes a little clearer. Until one morning, they wake with the certainty that somewhere, somehow, it is waiting. No one truly knows what lies beyond its gates. Some say those who enter never return. Others insist they do return, only no longer as the people who left. The legend offers no answers, only fragments. A moonlit forest, watching gargoyles, ancient gates, a house older than memory itself, and 7 shadows moving behind distant windows. Most people will live their entire lives believing the manor is nothing more than an old story. A few will spend their lives searching for it. Neither will ever understand the truth. The manor is never lost. It has never been hidden. It has simply been waiting. Waiting beneath every full moon. Waiting beyond every drifting mist. Waiting for the moment when legend becomes reality. Because there is one final truth the oldest stories all share. When the manor finally reveals itself, it is already too late. It has remembered you, and soon it will awaken. Part 2. The Awakening. The full moon rose without haste. It climbed above the treetops as it had done for thousands of years. Silent, patient, unchanging. Its pale light spilled across the sleeping forest, turning every branch into black lace against a silver sky. The world seemed to hold its breath. No wind stirred the ancient oaks. No owl called from the darkness. Even the wolves, hidden deep within the trees, fell strangely silent. The forest knew. It always knew. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, a veil of mist began to gather between the trunks. It drifted across the forest floor like water searching for forgotten paths. At first it was little more than wisps curling around fallen leaves. Then it thickened. It spread. It swallowed every familiar landmark until the woodland became an endless sea of silver. There were stories that the mist appeared naturally. There were others that insisted it had never been part of the forest at all. It belonged to the manor. It always arrived first. Somewhere beyond the veil, something stirred. A single ember glowed. Tiny, barely visible. Then another, and another, until a bright guiding light flickered through the mist like distant stars. Ancient braziers stood hidden beyond sight. One by one, they awakened. No hand struck flint. No servant carried flame. The fires simply came alive, as though remembering their purpose. Their glow spread across black iron, across weathered stone, across towering statues whose faces had not been seen for another month. The gargoyles watched. Carved from ancient granite, they crouched upon broken pillars and towering rooftops. Their wings were folded. Their claws gripped cold stone. Rain and snow had worn their features across countless centuries. Yet beneath the moonlight, their eyes seemed almost alive. They had watched kingdoms rise. They had watched kingdoms fall. They had watched empires disappear beneath the dust of history. Still, they waited. Because they were not guardians of the past. They were guardians of what was to come. The mist continued to part. Not quickly. Never quickly. The manor revealed itself with the patience of something that had no fear of time. First came the outline of enormous walls. Then towering chimneys reaching towards the stars, some say taller than mountains. Sharp Gothic spires pierced the night sky. Narrow windows appeared behind drifting curtains of silver. Every stone looked impossibly old, yet none appeared broken. The manor did not decay. It endured. As the last veil of mist drifted aside, the great house stood in silent majesty. Its walls seemed almost black beneath the moon. Its countless windows reflected a silvery red light. Towering arches cast long shadows across empty courtyards. Every balcony, every doorway, every weathered gargoyle, every iron railing, everything waited. Then, a single candle burned into life. It glowed behind the highest window of the eastern tower. Moments later, another answered. Then another. One by one, warm, golden light appeared throughout the manor. Not hurried, not random, deliberate. Each flame awakened exactly when it was meant to. Long corridors emerged from darkness. Great halls began to glow. Crystal chandeliers shimmered into life. Ancient portraits caught the dancing candlelight. Dust did not cover them. Nothing inside the manor gathered dust. Time touched many things. It did not touch this place. Deep within the walls came the slow sound of old timber settling. A staircase sighed. Somewhere far below, unseen gears turned with a heavy metallic groan. Doors unlocked themselves. Bolts withdrew. Chains loosened. The manor stretched like a sleeping giant opening its eyes. Far above, ravens circled the highest tower. None dared land. None ever did. They circled once, twice, then disappeared into the darkness beyond the forest. The braziers burned brighter. The flames climbed higher without smoke. Their deep red glow reflected across polished stone and ancient iron. The warmth should have reached the forest. It never did. Beyond the gates, the night remained bitterly cold. The manor kept its warmth for itself. Somewhere within its countless rooms, a clock began to chime. Its voice was deep, ancient, measured. Each note rolled through the halls like distant thunder. 1, 2, 3, until the 7th chime echoed into silence. Nothing moved, yet everything had changed. 7 lights now shone brighter than all the others, each from a different wing of the manor, each separated by impossible distances, each watching the darkness beyond the gates. No curtains stirred, no figures appeared. Only light. Waiting. Below them, the great entrance remained sealed. Twin doors of ancient black oak stood beneath an enormous stone archway, carved with symbols long forgotten by the modern world. Iron hinges, thicker than a man's arm, held them closed. No keyhole could be seen. No handle. Only the image of a full moon carved into the center where the 2 doors met. The manor had no need for locks. It opened only when it wished. Beyond those doors lay a warmth, light, music yet to be played, conversations yet to be spoken, destinies yet to be rewritten. The forest remained silent. The mist settled once more around the walls. Everything was ready. The manor had awakened. Now, it would wait. Part 3. Beyond the gates. The iron gates stood open. Not wide, not welcoming. Just enough. As though someone had already decided he was expected. He stopped a few feet from the entrance, his hand tightening instinctively around the strap of his overnight bag. Every instinct told him to turn around. The road behind him offered certainty. A long drive back through the forest. A warm hotel. Electric lights. Other people. Instead, he found himself staring between the towering stone pillars. The drive curved gently out of sight, disappearing beneath an avenue of ancient yew trees, whose branches intertwined high above like the vaulted ceiling of a forgotten cathedral. Fallen leaves lay undisturbed across the gravel, yet there was no sense of neglect. Everything felt maintained, cared for, as if unseen hands had tended the grounds only moments before his arrival. He glanced back towards the road. The mist had thickened. The forest he had just walked through seemed strangely distant now, its familiar outlines softened into little more than shifting grey shadows. For the first time since arriving, he realized something. He could no longer hear the wind. The silence was complete. Not empty. Listening. He stepped through the gates. The temperature changed immediately. Not colder. Still. The air carried the faint scent of cedar, old stone, and something sweeter he couldn't quite place. Lavender, perhaps. Or aged parchment. Whatever it was, it stirred an unexpected memory that vanished before he could grasp it. His boots crunched softly across the gravel. The sound echoed far further than it should have. He paused. The echo continued. 1, 2, 3 footsteps. Yet he had only taken one. He frowned, turning slowly. Nothing. Only the silent drive stretching back towards the gates.
Stop it, you're imagining things.
He muttered to himself. His own voice sounded unfamiliar. Too loud. Almost unwelcome. The manor revealed herself gradually as the drive curved through the trees. She was larger than he had imagined, far larger. Towering stone walls rose above sweeping terraces, their weathered surfaces bathed in pale moonlight. Countless windows reflected silver light like watchful eyes, while ivy climbed across sections of the ancient masonry without concealing its quiet grandeur. The building did not dominate the landscape. It belonged to it. As though the surrounding woodland had grown around the manor, rather than the other way around. He slowed, almost unconsciously. Every few steps, another detail caught his attention. Stone gargoyles lined the roofline. A dry fountain occupied the center of a circular courtyard. Marble statues stood among carefully clipped hedges, each worn smooth by centuries of rain. None of them appeared damaged. None appeared abandoned. It was simply waiting. Halfway along the drive, he noticed something that made him stop. There were no tire marks, no footprints. The gravel ahead lay perfectly undisturbed, yet the gates behind him had been open. Someone had opened them. Someone maintained the gardens. Someone lit the lanterns now glowing warmly beneath the manor's covered entrance. So where was everyone? He looked towards the nearest window. For the briefest moment, he thought he saw movement. A figure, tall, perfectly still, watching him. He blinked. The window reflected only the moon. A nervous laugh escaped him. This place is getting into your head. He continued walking. Above him, somewhere high within the manor, a single bell rang. Just once. Its deep, resonant note rolled gently across the grounds before disappearing into the night. The sound carried no urgency, no alarm. It felt almost ceremonial, as though his arrival had been acknowledged. He had no way of knowing that, beyond the great entrance hall, 7 women had heard that same bell. And every one of them knew exactly what it meant. Part 4. The First Welcome. The bell rang only once. Deep within the manor, Anna opened her eyes. She had been seated beside the cold fireplace in her chamber, perfectly still, her hands resting upon the arms of a high-backed chair carved from black oak. No flame burned in the grate. None was needed. The room seemed to breathe with its own muted warmth, the shadows shifting slowly across the dark red walls, as though disturbed by something moving beyond them. Across the chamber, a figure knelt upon the stone floor. His head remained bowed. A narrow silver chain ran from the collar around his neck to an iron ring fixed beneath Anna's chair. He did not look up when the bell sounded. He knew better. Anna tilted her head, listening to the final vibration disappear into the walls. For years, the manor had slept. Its corridors had fallen silent. Its fires had dimmed. The great entrance doors had remained closed against the world beyond the gates. Now, someone had crossed the threshold. Anna rose. The movement was enough to make the kneeling figure straighten instinctively.
"Remain,"
she said. One word, quietly spoken, completely understood. She crossed the chamber, the heels of her boots sounding against the stone. As she approached the door, the candles along the walls flickered to life, each flame appearing in sequence until the room glowed with deep crimson light. Anna paused with one hand upon the handle. The manor was awake. She could feel it beneath her feet. A faint tremor passed through the stone, too subtle for any ordinary visitor to notice. Somewhere in the walls, ancient mechanisms began to turn. Air moved through corridors that had remained sealed for decades. Far below, beneath the foundations, fires stirred within the darkness. Other doors would be opening now. Other eyes would be watching. The awakening had already begun. Anna left her chamber and closed the door behind her. The corridor beyond was long and narrow, lined with portraits whose faces had faded beneath layers of age. Her footsteps echoed as she walked, although the sound did not behave as it should. Each step seemed to return from somewhere farther away, as though another woman were walking towards her from the opposite end of the passage. There was no one there. Not yet. At the top of the grand staircase, Anna stopped. Below, the entrance hall waited in shadow. The man stood near the center of the marble floor, facing away from her. His coat was damp from the mist outside, and one hand remained pressed against the pocket where he had placed the letter. He looked smaller inside the manor. Most people did. For a moment, Anna simply watched him. He had not called out. He had not attempted to open another door. He had not run. That interested her. The manor had chosen differently this time. Anna placed one hand upon the polished banister and began to descend. He heard her when she reached the 4th step. His shoulders tightened. Slowly, he turned. Anna continued down without hesitation. The light from the wall lamps caught the deep red of her clothing and the dark fall of her hair. She wore no mask and carried no weapon. She needed neither. There was something in the certainty of her movement that made the vast entrance hall seem to belong entirely to her. He watched her approach, his expression caught between relief and unease.
Hello?
He said. Anna reached the final step. She studied him in silence. His face was pale from the cold, though she suspected the cold was no longer the reason. There were shadows beneath his eyes, and several days of weariness in the way he held himself. He looked like a man who had travelled a long way. Not merely across roads, across years.
Who are you?
He asked. Anna's gaze moved briefly to the pocket containing the letter, then back to his eyes.
You already know why you were here?
His brow tightened.
No,
He said.
I really don't.
A faint smile touched Anna's lips, though there was no kindness in it, only recognition. Behind them, the great entrance doors closed. The sound rolled through the hall like distant thunder. He turned sharply, but the doors had already sealed, their iron bolts sliding into place without human hands. When he looked back, Anna had moved closer, close enough that he could see the strange calm in her eyes, close enough that retreat would have been obvious.
Welcome,
She said. He waited for more. None came.
Welcome where?
Anna glanced upwards. The chandeliers above them burst into flame. Light swept across the entrance hall, revealing the staircase, the portraits, the 7 dark corridors leading away into the heart of the house. Somewhere beyond them, a door opened. Then another. Then another. Anna looked back at him.
to the manor.
From the darkness behind her, footsteps began to approach. Part 5. Follow me. For several moments, neither of them spoke. The great entrance hall stood silent once more. The chandeliers burned steadily above them, their warm light reflecting across the polished marble floor. Shadows stretched between the tall columns and disappeared into the 7 corridors leading deeper into the manor. The man glanced towards the great entrance doors. They had not merely closed, they had become part of the wall, as though they had never opened at all. His heartbeat quickened. He turned back to Anna. She stood exactly where she had been, watching him with quiet patience. As she stepped forward, the light caught the deep red leather of her dress. It fitted her perfectly, tailored with simple elegance rather than extravagance. Polished silver buckles at her shoulders and waist reflected the chandelier light before disappearing back into the shadows. Tall black leather boots echoed softly against the marble floor with every measured step. Nothing about her appearance felt accidental. It wasn't fashion. It was a uniform, one that belonged to the manor.
You've locked the doors.
He said. Anna looked briefly towards them before returning her gaze to him.
I didn't.
Then who did?
The manor.
He frowned.
That's impossible.
Anna offered no argument. Instead, she turned gracefully towards one of the long corridors leading away from the hall.
Come with me.
There was no command in her voice, no threat, no promise, just quiet certainty. The corridor beyond the entrance hall was lined with dark oak panels, polished by generations of careful hands. Tall windows overlooked gardens hidden beneath drifting mist, while portraits of unfamiliar faces watched from the walls, their expressions impossible to read beneath centuries of fading varnish. The silence wasn't empty. It was listening. He found himself lowering his voice.
What is this place?
The manor.
I've worked that much out.
Anna's lips almost formed the hint of a smile.
Have you?
He had no answer. As they continued, he noticed that every door they passed was different. Some carried beautifully carved symbols instead of numbers. Others were plain black oak without handles or keyholes. One appeared to be made entirely from dark iron. Another looked centuries older than the walls surrounding it. None of them opened. At the end of the corridor stood a grandfather clock. Its pendulum swung slowly from side to side. Tick, tick, tick. He stopped. The hands weren't moving.
It's broken.
Anna glanced towards it.
No,
It isn't keeping time.
it isn't measuring yours.
Before he could ask what that meant, she continued walking. He hurried after her. The corridor opened into a circular gallery overlooking the center of the manor. 4 floors of balconies rose above them beneath a magnificent glass ceiling, where moonlight filtered through stained glass and settled across the stone floor below. Books filled towering shelves that reached almost to the ceiling. Ladders stood ready beside them. Thousands upon thousands of volumes, perhaps more.
The library?
Anna nodded once.
You'll spend time here.
Why?
When you're ready.
Again, no explanation. Again, she spoke as though the future had already happened. He was beginning to dislike that feeling. Or perhaps he disliked how natural it was becoming. His eyes drifted across the balconies above. For the briefest moment, he thought he saw someone standing on the 3rd floor. A woman's silhouette. Watching. When he looked again, there was no one there. Anna had already reached another doorway. Unlike the others, this one stood slightly open. Warm light spilled through the narrow gap. She rested one gloved hand against the door, without opening it further. Inside, he could hear the crackle of a fire, the faint clink of porcelain. Then, a woman's voice could be heard from inside the room. Calm, unhurried.
Is this the one?
Anna smiled almost imperceptibly.
Yes.
She looked back at him.
They've been expecting you.
And, for the first time since entering the manor, he wasn't sure he wanted to know who they were. Part 6. The Invitation. Anna rested her hand against the open door. Warm light spilled into the corridor, carrying with it the comforting scent of old books, polished oak, and a fire that had burned for many hours. She glanced towards him.
You should come in.
He stepped across the threshold. The room felt unlike anywhere else within the manor. Floor-to-ceiling bookcases lined every wall, their shelves filled with thousands of leather-bound volumes collected over countless generations. A large stone fireplace burned quietly at the far end of the room, casting a warm glow across polished oak furniture and an enormous desk that dominated the center of the room. Someone was sitting behind it. At first, he could see only her outline. The fire behind her reduced her to little more than a silhouette. She remained perfectly still, waiting. As he walked further into the room, the candlelight slowly revealed her. Long white hair had been woven into 2 immaculate braids that rested neatly over her shoulders before continuing down her back. The growing light revealed the lime green leather of her dress, beautifully tailored, with polished silver buckles at the shoulders, waist, and cuffs that caught the warm glow for only a moment before fading into softer reflections. Like Anna, she looked completely at home, as though this room had always belonged to her. She closed the book resting before her. Only then did she raise her eyes. They settled upon him with quiet curiosity. For a brief moment, he found himself studying the unfamiliar uniform she wore.
You will find that my eyes are up here.
Her voice was calm, almost amused. Heat rose to his face as he looked up.
I'm so sorry. I was just...
There is no need for you to be sorry. I'm sure you will learn in time.
A faint smile appeared, before disappearing just as quickly. She rose from her chair with effortless grace. Anna remained quietly by the doorway. Neither woman seemed in any hurry to speak. Finally, the woman extended her hand.
Do you have the invitation, please?
He frowned.
The invitation.
She nodded once. Without really thinking, he reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and removed a single folded sheet of heavy cream paper. It had travelled with him ever since the letter had arrived. He unfolded it. The paper was thick beneath his fingers. 3 words were written neatly across the center. You are invited. Nothing more. No address, no signature, no explanation. He had read those words more times than he cared to admit. They had never changed. He stepped forward and placed the invitation into her waiting hand. She accepted it carefully. Her eyes moved across the page, slowly, thoughtfully, almost as though she were reading far more than the 3 words he already knew by heart. When she finished, she folded the paper with great care and placed it beside the book on her desk.
Good. Everything is in order.
He stared at her.
What is?
The invitation.
He frowned.
It only says.
He stopped. She looked at him patiently.
It only says what?
You are invited.
The faintest smile returned.
To you?
She rested one hand lightly upon the folded paper.
Perhaps.
Silence settled over the library. The fire crackled softly behind her. Somewhere deep within the manor, the old bell rang once. She inclined her head.
My name is Becca.
It was the first name anyone had offered him since entering the manor. He opened his mouth to introduce himself. She smiled gently.
I already know who you are.
He laughed nervously.
Everyone keeps saying that.
Because it's true.
She looked once towards Anna before returning her attention to him.
The manor has been expecting you.
He shook his head.
I still don't understand why I'm here.
No,
Her voice remained warm, but certain.
you don't.
She picked up the invitation once more and held it lightly between her fingers.
But you will.
She placed it back on the desk.
Welcome to the manor.
The room fell silent. Outside, somewhere beyond the library walls, the ancient house seemed to breathe. And for the first time since crossing its gates, he realized he had stopped wondering how he would leave. He had begun wondering why he had been invited.